Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order on November 19th, 2025. Mayor Porco, may we have the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Evans, may we have the roll call, please?
Yes, Madam President. Mr. Bacon.
Present.
Mr. Baoki.
Present.
Mr. Costa.
Present.
Mr. Fosbrink.
Present.
Mr. Lawrence.
Present.
Ms. Lewis. President Martin.
Present.
Mayor Porco.
Here.
Thank you. For my president's report, I wish to commend one of our residents, Mr. Gary Boyle, for his help in keeping Forest Hills clean and beautiful. Ever since his retirement, Mr. Boyle has made picking up litter and trash that he sees near his home part of his daily walk. This is how his good deed started, and Mr. Boyle has now met other concerned citizens that help with this quest. Thank you, Mr. Boyle. This evening, we have a public hearing scheduled for residents to voice their concerns regarding the 2026 budget. Rest assured, the council members of the Borough of Forest Hills, take their fiduciary responsibility very seriously, and we plan on delivering a budget that has been carefully negotiated to maintain the level of services and amenities our residents expect and deserve, while minimizing any additional increases in tax. And that ends my report. May we have the mayor's report, please? Oh, I'm sorry, there will be an executive session following the meeting.
Okay, Madam President, this past Saturday, we had our annual Light Up the Hills events, here at the Borough building. And, like the forecast, the weather got off for us, thankfully, we actually had a pretty pleasant night. Weather-wise, and I didn't really start to rain until almost everything's completed. It was wonderful. I just want to take a moment and thank a few people who were instrumental in making this happen. So, first of all, Walt Reamer, who did a significant amount of planning around this. Also want to thank Studio G, Amy's Dance Academy, the Lorraine Bush Dance Center, the St. Joseph Worker Parish, Bell Choir, as well as the Public Works Department for getting everything ready from a decoration standpoint. The fire department, who was ready to send up the transport Santa Claus. Here, Pat Lanigan, who may or may not have resembled Santa Claus when he showed up that night. He did some job with the kids, and then also the office staff. So Seth Abrams and Allison Sarah did a wonderful job, as well as the folks from the Public Works Department, Paul Powell and Bruce, who were up here to span something out. And keeping things on level, as well as Forest Hills Police Department, including Chief Williams, all of them showed up for the event. So it's always nice to see the kids kind of enjoy it, and it'll be really nice to see, everybody kind of lined up, taking pictures with Santa Claus, and then also wanted to take an opportunity to thank Dunkin' Donuts for their generous donation of the Golden Hot Chocolate, which went over 31 million. Coming up in December, the decoration has already started. We have our holiday tour of lights, which is planned for Friday, December 19th at 7 p.m. So the information is out on the website, and I think we'll be posting some stuff to social media here by the end of this week. The deadline to submit entry, I believe, is Wednesday, December the 10th, if I'm not mistaken. And then once your entry has been made, what we will do is take some time to kind of plot out a driving schedule where we will literally take a caravan of cars past the houses so that people can score hard. You can vote on which one is your favorite house. And the top three winners receive a $200, $150, and $100 gift certificate to any Forest Hills system in the area. So, I was walking the dog tonight and, one of my neighbors up in Hemingway, already had their meteor out and mentioned that they're ready to go. And we've already had an official entry, on Sharon, so, I think the competition is gonna heat up this year. It would have been a very popular event. And, so looking forward to that. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Porco. Will you be reporting for the FACA?
I can.
Please, thank you.
Let me grab my cheat sheet here. Okay, the Forest Hills Community Alliance is about to issue RFPs for both the business revitalization plan. And for those of you unfamiliar with that, that is essentially a study that we're commissioning to take a look at the Arden Boulevard corridor from between Fairfax and the end of the shopping plaza where Joe and the magistrate's office that. As well as the Innovation Park, which is essentially the parking lot right across the street from our building and across the street from the House Rec Center. And we're submitting that out via the Tribune Review as well as the Pennsylvania chapter of the Internet Planning Facility. Proposals have to be submitted electronically and or hand delivered here to the borough in care of the Forest Hills Community Alliance. And those proposals are postmarked, have to be postmarked by no later than December 30th, 2025. So basically, once the Forest Hills Community Alliance reviews those proposals and selects a provider in January, the board will work with the provider to meet the locals. And members of Borough Council will also welcome to participate in the conversations with the selected provider once we get underway and probably start work in, I'd say, February. So we're looking forward to seeing what transpires out of those commission studies. And this is kind of the first step of many in terms of the revitalization effort of the automobile. So that pretty much wraps it up. We will not meet in December, but the Community Alliance will then meet in January. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Porco. Mr. Abrams, the manager's report, please.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to add to the mayor's thank yous for Light Up Night. With all of our events, it seems like we have three consistent volunteers, Mary Angie Brusco and Mary Porco, because as the staff, we could not do it on our own, and they're vital, especially if you want hot chocolate that tastes good.
In trouble,
She's used to it. You did thank Chuck, though.
I did.
Otherwise, I think we'll probably get a little more detail on things, but hopefully, as people have been moving around the borough, you'll notice that the paving is getting ready to wrap up for the regular piece. I believe all of the originally planned roads have all their top coats on now. Looks like there's some sealing and then the additional pieces that council discussed to repair the speed humps and parts of Decatur, the stairs and walkways project, the concrete and is done on everything around Coke Park. They when I drove by the other day, they are actively working on Woodside now, so we should see that wrapped up. And also, if anyone noticed, because Lane of Ardmore was closed the other day, one of our contractors for sewer pipelining as part of, I believe that's part of our consent decree with Alcosan, was also out working. So there are definitely still a lot of projects going on, and other excitement is as of this month, we are now fully staffed, especially once council makes one more vote this evening. So we should be back to normal, and we're actually hard and heavy into 26 planning and making sure that we get out things like the calendars and notices going into the new year. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Abrams. Chief Williams, may we have your report, please?
Thank you, President Wong. As I usually remind everyone around this time of year, law change, in fact, everything is darker sooner. I'm hoping everybody will remember maybe leave a light on, they really working in the rain, because by the time you get home, it's dark enough. Secondly, again, maybe leave some lights on in your rooms and they're going to be there in the evening hours, because this is that time of year as well, or people may take a second look at it and it's completely dark. And may think that there may be some additional prizes that we found inside your home this time of year, you may buy something that shows her your walls. Again, remember to do the things that are important. Safety of your own is always starts with you, and again, you need us and building something suspicious or unusual. It's always better to call us and not wait for the next day or wait until you log in. If you see something that you're uncomfortable with, something that you can. We don't mind going out, we don't mind starting by getting quick close. We gotta have that proactive approach rather than coming back later to find something new first. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chief Williams. Mr. Corbel?
I just wanted to add that the executive session this evening is for advice of the solicitor and personnel matters. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Mr. Corbel. Then moving on to the other committees and board reports. Mr. Bacon, anything to report? Mr. Lawrence?
Nothing to report.
Mr. Bioki?
Nothing to report.
Okay, then we move on.
It's up to me.
The
Okay.
public hearing. Okay.
Yep. So at this point, we will call to order the public hearing on the 2026 budget. The only exhibit of record will be, well, there'll be two exhibits. There'll be the proposed budget and advertising to indicate tonight was the hearing. So if anybody in the public has a budget comment, step forward.
Just a quick question. What is our tax rate right now?
What's the date?
8.75.
8.75. Bold.
The question was, what is our millage rate?
Yes. Okay. Any other questions? Hearing none, unless there is an objection, I will close the public hearing on the 2026 proposed budget.
Thank you, Mr. Corbel. Okay, moving on then to public comment. At this time, only residents and taxpayers of the Borough of Forest Hills will be permitted to address council on any issue, whether appearing on today's agenda or not. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 5 minutes. Groups of people will be required to designate a spokesperson to represent them who may speak for a maximum of 10 minutes. Speakers are asked to use the microphone at the speaker stand, clearly state your name and spell it, and state address for the record. If you have any documents to share with council members, you may present them to the borough manager now. The council president will determine how these materials will be distributed and viewed for the meeting. Speakers are reminded that council uses these comment periods as opportunities to gather information and not to respond directly to concerns raised. Information gathered will not be discussed at the meeting, but instead will be referred by the council president to the appropriate committee for review and discussion at the next committee meeting. If it is not a matter for deliberation by a committee, but requires more immediate attention, it will be referred to the borough manager, who will respond by phone and/or email within 5 business days following this meeting.
Good evening, everyone. Bruce Seebeck, SIVAK 521 Decatur Avenue. I know you're tired of looking at me coming here almost every month and talking about the 500 block of Decatur, but here we are again. We're 2 years plus into this since I first brought it to the council's attention. And to date, we still have not begun any work. Back in August, I was told, or September, I was told, early October, we have the work started. Over here and gone. At the end of last month's council meeting, the engineers told me that they would be done in early November, And it could take up to 2 months, which I know it's gonna take a while. We're past the beginning of November, we're in the, nearing the end of November, still, no work has begun. We're at the point now that rebar is showing through the concrete. Not only is it a, public works issue, but now it's also a public safety issue. Public Safety Committee better look at this also and get this work done before someone's hurt. We have children, my next door neighbor, they have 2 small children, and my neighbor, she takes them to school every day. Just to go out of the drive-in, she can't avoid hitting this hole where the rebar is. In addition to the other potholes, let's take a look at that. Remember, we're the local, or you are the local government. Not the federal government. And the federal government's motto is delay, delay, delay. Divert, divert, divert. Let's not get into that well, because right now, we're 2 years into this, and I call that a delay, delay, delay. I don't want you folks to have that motto of delay, 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 and divert. I also just noticed that, when I was here a couple of months ago for the committee meeting, it was canceled. And I asked Mr. Abrams if those meetings were, recorded, and he told me that they were not. Well, now I'm getting a pretty good idea why, because if you say something at those meetings, it means nothing. This is the only forum that's recorded. That's concerning, because those are official meetings also. They should be recorded because everything that's said there has to do with this borough. We've talked about things there, nothing's happened. I mentioned to President Martin earlier, I'm out of patience. After 2+ years, this guy ends. Totally out of it. I'd like to see something done very, very soon, hopefully before the end of the month. Budget, well, that's something you guys have to work at, but it's also due to work at public safety on our streets. And then finally, I was looking at our leaf collection schedule, and there was nothing else scheduled for the Decatur Avenue leaf clean. We have a lot of leaves now in the gutters. Cars are spinning their tires, cars are sliding. Fortunately, no one's hit anything yet. If you're trying to back up, 2, 3 in the morning, all I hear is tires spinning. We put that on the agenda to have the 500 block cleaned up. Most of the leaves are down. There's still a few trees in the area, but I think the majority of the leaves are down. Folks, thank you for your time with me and the patience, and hopefully you won't have to look at me again in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sivak. I would refer the leaf schedule to our manager. And perhaps Option Policy would look into the recording of meetings. Thank you. That ends public comment, and we're moving on to the business meeting. Mr. Lawrence, Operations and Policy, please.
Thank you, Madam President. One, I refer the approval of minutes October 8, 2025, and October 15, 2025.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any comment or questions? May we have a voice vote, please? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
I request the ratification of the hiring of Michael Phillips as the finance specialist with an effective date of November 11, 2025, at an annualized salary of $42,000 a year.
Second.
Any questions, comments? May we have a voice vote, please? All in favor, say aye.
Third, I have a motion to accept the resignation of Nick Harper from both the Environmental Advisory Council and the Arts and Culture Advisory Council.
Any comments or questions? May we have a voice vote, please? All in favor, say aye.
I have a motion to accept the resignation of Sam Montgomery from Planning Commission.
Is there a second? Comments or questions? May we have a voice vote, please? All in favor, say aye.
I have a motion to approve resolution 1295, authorizing the franchise renewal agreement with Borough.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any comments?
President Morton.
Yes, Mr. Bioki.
Okay, I made a request to the manager to have the wording changed
on this motion to more accurately reflect and describe the resolution. And the wording that I had requested was to approve the resolution 1295, authorizing the 5-year cable franchise renewal agreement between Forest Hills Borough and Verizon Pennsylvania LLC. I would propose that that language be substituted for the previous motion.
Any other comments? May we have a voice vote, please? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Point of order, I'm sorry, are we voting on the amendment, amending the language, or are we voting on the
We're
motion?
voting on the motion. I thought, right?
Correct.
Okay,
Okay, so we try that again.
Hang on a minute, right. So Rick's point is valid, so Angelo actually made a motion to change the wording of the motion. So I think you have to vote on that first, and then vote to accept it.
Well, it's not necessarily a motion, I mean, that wouldn't have to be accepted by the motion. In the seconder, so that would be, I know it's our Mr. Lawrence moved and Mr. Bacon seconded. Did you say? Yeah, okay. So if that's to happen, then somebody has to ask for that, and Mr. Bayoki did. And at that point, nobody said anything, and we went to the vote, so we did hit the brakes before the vote was completed. So if the motioner and the seconder would like to amend, we could do so now, and if not, then we can just continue the vote.
Mr. Bacon?
If it's permitted at this time, if you have a comment.
Yep.
I appreciate and agree with Mr. Bailey's update there. I'd like us having more clarification. The whole picture on it. So if I had been able to know what was going on and understand it properly, I wouldn't wait to second, or however it's to try. That as well.
Okay, so at this point, is there any other comments or concerns? And are we ready then for a voice vote, or are we doing a motion?
Mr. Lawrence.
Help me with this one.
You agreed to the language.
Yes, I agree.
Mr. Bacon will as well, based on your comment. Second. Okay, so now we're voting on the motion, but using the language proposed by Mr. Bioki. Right.
Okay, are we ready to go then? For
Yes,
a
thank
voice vote, please? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We got there.
I'll tell you what, I had a hard job tonight. 5 motions, and then after this, I think we're over. Thank you, Madam President. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Moving on then to finance, please, Ms. Lewis.
Can I just be abstained from that vote, since I have no idea what it's about? My apologies for being late.
That's fine. So the vote would be 6-0 to 1.
Is that good?
Ms. Lewis.
That's okay?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Are we moving on to finance then?
Yes, there's not a whole lot, in terms of finance, just the approval of the October bills that are in your packet.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any comment? Questions? May we have a voice vote, please? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Does that conclude?
Oh, I'm
finance?
sorry, that concludes my report.
Thank you. Mr. Bacon, anything for borough property?
I have no motions this evening, and Mr. Abrams covered all the updates relevant to the steps.
Thank you. Moving on then, Mr. DeCosta, anything for planning and zoning?
I have no motions and nothing to report.
Thank you. Mr. Frostbrink, anything for public works?
No motions, although I wonder if the engineer has any updates.
Yes, so with regards to Decatur Avenue, the paving was completed, on Tuesday. So we now have final budget we can, recommend for Decatur. A member of our office and a contractor will be meeting on site, I believe it is Friday, to basically mark out spots. And we will be coming to the public works meeting Monday to basically get that, present what's essentially the budget that's left over, how much we're gonna be able to do in Decatur, and we can get the contractor moving.
All right, Mr. Bacon.
I just want to confirm that there's no further approval or anything needed for that final board council that's signed off that we're using the remainder and everything will be good to need to get, correct?
What I believe, yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so hopefully we'll see some activity there by Friday.
Correct.
Great. Thank you. That concludes our report.
Thank you, Mr. Fosbury. Mr. Bioki, anything for public safety?
I have no motions or any reports.
Okay. So then, under old business, are we discussing the 2026 budget there? Or does it matter? Okay. Well, I'll just follow the agenda. Anything for new business? Okay, then let's open the 2026 budget discussion for council members. Okay, did you want to start with anything here?
Sure, okay, I've emailed a lot of this and you all have packets in front of you. Let me give a quick rundown of what they are. I'm actually going to start with the piece of ledger size paper. That has the responses that I received, the recommendations on changes to the budget. They were put in this manner where you can then remove them from the budget total, which I currently have as a balanced budget. So as an example, for the first line, if council chose to close the tennis courts totally, it would save $16,839. If they chose to leave the courts open but do minimal repairs, it would save $11,000. If they chose to keep the courts open and just stop the summer clinic, it would save $2,600. If you do minimal repairs and stop the summer clinic, or you minimize the repairs and stop the summer clinic, they would save $13,000. So you've got ranges in there that would save anywhere from $2,600 up through almost $17,000 if you choose to do anything.
Should we just take that one at a time? Does anyone have a comment on
Yeah, I have a question.
that? Mr. DeCosta?
So if we were to close the courts, we're talking about temporarily closing them for this budget year, correct?
Correct.
And it would probably be next to impossible to hold the clinic this summer in the condition that they're in, correct?
No,
No?
it has been confirmed there are no safety issues. Now, if a ball hits a crack like that, it's going to affect play, but there are no safety issues.
Okay.
Mr. Bioki?
Yeah, we can. Safety issue.
That was, I had the engineer review, and by his evaluation, as well as honestly us walking in slide and trying to trip on things, that there is no clear safety issue.
Okay, as my understanding, some of the users of the court complained that they were worried about safely playing court.
Not that I'm aware of. I will double check with Mr. Reamer, though.
I'd like to speak on that. When I was the liaison, I started out as the liaison as the rec board, the tree and shrub committee, the EAC. But I remember clearly at the rec board meetings, there would be a lot of discussion about the tennis court and the condition of it, and there was concerns. Now, we don't even know at this point how many people use the tennis court. All we have are figures here of how much we make and how much we spend. Now, we talked about a 1 year, not a permanent close, but just to see. I would like to bring that back because one of our concerns, we always think, oh, people are gonna be upset. It took us 2 years to put the Tree City Times digital because we were so concerned that people were gonna complain. Has anyone complained? We have a process. They come here, I believe, is that it? Mr. Abram, they can get a paper copy printed, is that correct?
If they're requested, yes, there have been very, very, very few.
All right, and as Mr. Lawrence suggested, there are tennis courts nearby free. So we don't know how many people played, and I suggest we do a 1 year, not a permanent close, to see what happens. And next year, we either deal with the rec board or we still haven't seen the total report we're supposed to receive about the playgrounds. And I'm still waiting for that. So I would propose that we do the maximum saving, which is 16,000. Wait, I have to put my glasses, sorry. 839. Are there any comments on that? Yes, Mr. Lawrence?
I would agree with that. I don't see any harm basically doing a 1 year moratorium. If it does create that much concern, we'll learn about it, but I'll also give us a year to do some more research. But my perception is that we could take that moratorium for a year without too much damage. Or recreation.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Mr. Bacon?
I have some concern about us doing this because of the chance that it isn't just a 1 year. Like if we're seriously considering this as a do we continue having tennis courts, then I can see there's a chance that they really might never reopen. So I would question whether we should take that significant a move rather than just continuing to minimize repairs and keeping it going through this year. I think that it is essentially 2/3 of the savings to minimize repairs. And I think there's such a strong chance, in my opinion, of us seeing them closed for a year and just sort of rolling with that through momentum. That folks might never get a chance to use them again. And think we under the false impression that we are guaranteeing comeback. Whereas if we're saying we're gonna reevaluate this to the point, to the level that we are, I think there legitimately is a chance they wouldn't come back, and we're not really proposing it or framing it as such. So I would personally support minimizing repairs.
Okay, well, I don't understand why people would think if we say there's a 1 year moratorium. The Tree and Shrub Committee was happy to accept a moratorium on planting more trees until we get a report. So I think they'd be fine with it. I would rather roll with it and see what happens. If people complain, then we'll know. And if they don't, then we'll know that too. So, yes, Mayor Corpo. Sorry, I didn't see your hand up.
That's okay, Rick, you want to go first, that's fine.
No, the only question I have is because to me, they're small numbers. Where would the data come from to justify reopening the courts then?
I was hoping Mr. Reamer or the rec board would supply that.
Well, but the issue then is there's no way to collect data, because if we shut down the tennis courts, if you don't have the data right now, where is the data gonna come from? Because if no one can use the courts, then the rate of the usage is 0%. You see what I'm saying? Like if the question is, can we cut this? Yeah, we can. and see if anybody complains, but we're not gonna have more data later if nobody has access to the courts.
Well, isn't there a keypad to get into that?
No. I don't believe so.
It's a key card.
And how many people have a key card?
Right now, there are approximately 20, but that's an unknown number due to a computer crash that wiped out all the old data.
Well, again, see, that's my issue here. So we're talking about making data-driven decisions, and if we say we close the courts, which I don't think that would be a problem in general to say there's a moratorium on the courts, but we don't give ourselves an opportunity to collect more data, is the only thing I'm trying.
Well, I think part of the data would be understanding how much it's gonna cost to repair the following year, or how much we're gonna have to set aside or invest. I'm kind of like. I would want us to do this with the commitment that we're looking to reopen them somehow. I don't think you can hold the tennis clinic if the ball's gonna hit a crack and go the other direction, so. Regardless of the safety issues, it's just not, you know. But I guess I would, you know, if we're trying to save some money this year, it's one of those activities that has 20 people that are already using the courts, if, you know. I would just want a commitment that we're going to look at that seriously the following year and set aside some money.
Well, and I would add to that. We still have not seen any cost estimates from anybody to fix it. So are these numbers just guesses? Has that come to anybody on borough property, the cost to repair these? How can we make an informed decision? We're guessing.
Well, I mean, this is probably to run the courts, right?
So
Mostly reruns.
if you're looking at closing the courts, that is the total cost to run the courts. And if we took it out of the 2026 proposed budget, it would be a net savings of $16,000.
And wasn't there a figure in there to fix this crack?
Yes, that was $15,000
And
of that.
do we have any estimates to prove that, or is that a guess? That's just my question.
That is a best guess.
Okay.
And therefore, the minimal improvements would be just $4,000 trying to
Like regular maintenance and stuff.
to try and do something with the cracks as a layover that would not be a long-term fix.
Ms. Lewis?
I will agree with Councilman Bacon and Councilman Fosbury. I think the lion's share of the savings, the difference is in between 5,000 and 6,000 to leave the courts open. It would enable the borough to collect data, since that data, for whatever reason, is no longer available. It would achieve almost all of the savings. Additionally, because I'm new, I took some time in between now and our last council meeting. Granted, this was not a representative survey of the whole borough, but I talked to a lot of people. I was very moved by what Phoebe said. I spent some time with my neighbors who are retired on a fixed income. And I talked to them, and I reached out to people that I've met in the borough. They like that they have these amenities, whether they use them or not. I can guarantee you that my senior citizen neighbors are not playing tennis, but they like the idea that they exist. And so personally, I feel that we should be a borough trying to keep these amenities going. And that to me seems like a great compromise. That's just my thought.
Mr. Lawrence, you had your hand up.
Yeah, setting aside here tonight. We have a rec board, we have a director of recreation, we have technology that can send out surveys to our residents about whether this is what they want. If we've got 20 people in the past, that kind of sends a signal to me, but whatever. There are so many ways that we can reach out to the residents and find this information. I think we should not just say, well, we have to keep them open on the basis of lack of data. Ultimately, you're gonna have to decide is the amount of money we save worth it? That's another question, but I think we can find the data necessary. Thank you.
Mayor Porco.
So, kind of. What I wanted to say earlier is that, concept stores go to the park, gives the amenities that we offer our residents, sorry. The pool and the tennis courts are two of the key ones, right? And I guess the question I'm asking is. At best case scenario, you're still looking at saving less than what, 0.25% on the total budget, right? A $16,000 savings on what, $8.4 million budget approximately. Is 0.2%. I mean, I'm not a math guy, so keep me honest, but that's kind of where I'm seeing that go. And that's not to disregard some of the comments made about the condition of the courts, et cetera, but I would take the time this summer to recreate your data tables and kind of determine, okay, how often is this used? And then we can make a more informed decision. I kind of feel like we're taking a shot in the dark for very savings and go, I'll keep it from the budget. That would be, perhaps option B is a reasonable middle ground for your, saving still 2/3 of that 16K. But you're also able to offer the courts, and at the end of the day, people who want to use the courts, if they want to play on pristine clay courts, they have options. But if they're perfectly willing to play on the courts that have a few blemishes on them and they can deal with it, that's also their option to do, right? And that might be a fair compromise when we look at this. Thank you.
Well, I would like to have the data information. A survey was discussed. It was never performed. We don't have estimates on how much this costs. So again, we're running the risk because somebody went up there and said, oh, it's safe. I wouldn't want to be paying for a tennis clinic if the ball can divot and jump because it's hitting this hole. Mr. Bacon, I'm sorry, Mr. Biocchi.
Just like to, put it in a different perspective based on the number of residents we have and the number of people that we believe are using the tennis courts. So we have about 0.3% of a percentage of our population is using the tennis court. And the idea of closing this is not, it may seem like a small amount of money. But we're looking at saving not just here, but in other areas. I know we're spending an inordinate amount of time on just the tennis courts, but we have some other areas where we're going to try to get some savings, and those in total will determine what our final millage increase is going to be. So I think, again, I think we should, I'm in favor of closing them, getting the survey done, collecting the data, as Mr. Lawrence said. We have the means, the technology to do that, and I think that's what we should be looking at.
Mr. DeCross?
I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but I think having the amenities is one thing, having amenities in disrepair is another thing.
Oh,
So,
yes.
we need to be able to maintain our facilities and keep them up to date. And if we need to reboot this and take a break and get all the data or information or whatever we need, it might be worth saving a little bit this year. That's all my thought to say.
Mr. Bacon?
So I point out that this is also, you can either choose option A, which is goes towards, or option B, handles. So if we were to minimize repairs and stop a summer donate, that's essentially within $3,000 of those 8 points. And that we shouldn't just consider what it is in this year. We should consider that this is borough property that has been enjoyed by people as long as it's existed. Maybe not as well maintained as long as it existed, which we're coming to terms with. But we're talking $3,000 to remove a amenity from the borough that people have potentially come to really expect to be there. And again, we don't know all the data, but it probably matters a whole lot to some people. And 50 cents per person around the borough to not remove an established amenity, I think is worth it in this case.
Mr. Biocchi?
Yeah, one more thing, just to point out that we closed the tennis courts at Coke Park and replaced them with pickleball courts. And that should be an indication how many people were actually playing tennis. That did not cause a disruption, so just keep that in mind as well.
Okay, well, I propose this then. We still have time. Let's get a quick survey out. They're not hard to do. Mr. Abrams?
We have a more full-fledged survey that has been shared with Ops and Policy so they could see what it is. It has been formatted. At this point, the only thing I am waiting on is based on an email that I sent to council, and I can't remember if it was the end of last week or the very beginning of this week. I am prepared, unless there is objection, to open up our Borough Facebook page, at which point it can go out via Savvy, via the emails, via the emails that we have for rec members, and via Facebook, to try and get the best possible grouping of folks. The other piece that I will note is this is for a budget. So if council chooses to leave the entire tennis budget in there, and then in January or February or March chooses not to open it, there's savings. If, on the other hand, you choose to close them, we take it out of the budget, and then for some reason there's a desire to open them, then there's going to be additional unplanned expense. So even any decision made before we vote on the final budget is still potentially subject to some maneuvering in the budget year, should council have that desire.
Okay, we beat this. Oh, go ahead.
Excuse me, one minute. The survey that Mr. Abrams referred to is not really, there's a lot more that is in that survey.
Mr. Bioki, I would ask that if, especially it was submitted to Ops and Policy, actually just as a courtesy to let you know, but if there are corrections that need to be made, I would ask that they be submitted fairly quickly. It's been about 3 weeks since that was given to the committee, and if council does want to see something go out, it needs to go out.
Yes, my big comment. I'm not really more prime time. If you're going to send out a survey, it needs to be well thought out and be able to collect useful data. The way it is right now does not lend itself to that. So we need somebody that, in addition to maybe us looking at it, somebody that is actually well versed in creating meaningful surveys to look at it.
Okay, so let's table this until our next time we meet, okay? So moving on then,
The next one that came up was a request to reduce the amount of funding that is allocated to the advisory councils for an $1,800 savings. And those are funds that were used minimally by the EAC. The Arts and Culture Advisory Committee has requested some significant dollars this year. Last year they were getting started. So it's up to council to look at it, but right now it is budgeted at 4,810. So there was a discussion to bring it down to 3,000. Yeah,
I suggested 2,000 since the only, the last time I looked at Mr. Orkowski's report, $1,300 was spent.
it's at 1,800 right now.
Okay,
Or at
that's
least for
still
my
less than
forecast.
two.
Yep.
Are there any comments about that, Mr. Bacon?
I agree, I think it's reasonable, none of them have submitted significant budget things, and if we are able to bring significant borough resources, that are not like expense items to support those various initiatives on a regular basis without running from budget, so I agree
I'm sorry, you agree with,
with reducing the amount.
Oh, I see.
The advisory council's fee.
2,000 or 3,000?
2,000?
I agree with 2,000. I think if people come up with a good coherent need for more, for 2027, we can consider that.
That sounds fair to me.
Okay. The next one has already been implemented. It is in the draft fee schedule, which will be voted on same time as the budget, but it is increasing the rates on the field to $100 a month. And that is expected to gain us between $800 and $1,000.
Well, I thought it was 300 the last time I looked, and then there was another, if the soccer team wants to have a portage on there, that they pay for that. Has that been removed?
Yes, well, that's the option for them, but it's not in our costs.
Okay, so is it 300 a year or is it 100?
It's a month.
No, it's $100 a month, so the
Oh, 100 a
net
month, I'm
benefit
sorry.
to the borough will be between 800 and 1,000 if everyone holds to what they've been using.
Well, how many months does the soccer league play there?
I believe it's around 6 months.
I thought it was April, May, June, July, August, September, October. I mean, I still
They,
see
they,
people in there.
they do
now.
take a break in between.
Yeah, yes, it's.
Is it 2 different seasons?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
They run a fall season and a spring season, they take a break in the winter time and take a break in summer.
okay, because I swear every time I rode by there, I was like, oh, look.
Yeah.
More kids are playing. Yes, Mr. Beckman.
Just wanted to add on behalf of Borough Property, we discussed this pretty extensively at our last community meeting. And we still agree, people are getting a pretty darn good deal on this. But that we don't want to price anybody out because other boroughs are so a good deal, kind of a public good sense. So potentially more revenue in the future, but we might be careful on increasing this.
Okay, 100 a month sounds fair to me. Are there any objections? Okay.
the next and final proposed savings was changing the amount budgeted for deer culling. And that was a reduction of between 10 and 12,000. It would reduce the potential maximum number of deer, but it would certainly give us the financial cap. And that would provide an extra 10 to 12,000, depending on a final number that council ends up on.
Mr. Biogi?
Yeah, actually, I suggested reducing from 45 to 30,000, so it would be 50, but
45 to 30?
probably 45, which we had in the budget for last year or this year. And down to 30, we did not, I don't even think we made 30, and that is controlled by the game commission,
Okay.
so they can limit how many they call.
Mr. Beckman first.
There's seconding support for this. I think we're still in a learning process for this, and I think until basically all of the surrounding boroughs are in a similar mindset and acting, it's gonna be a slow motion. We all work towards this goal of reducing the deer population. And as long as there's anyone who's not on board, they're gonna be coming in from somewhere. So I think it's moving slowly and learning on this is very appreciable.
Mayor Porter?
Actually, going back to the fields for just a moment, sorry, what do, I assume that this pertains to both baseball and soccer or just soccer, I assume so.
Both.
And right now, what are we charging them to rent our fields, is it 200 a year?
100 a year.
100 a year, and we're gonna take them to what now, if we're charging them per month?
100 a month.
It was 100 per season.
So the change would go from 100 to what, 700 a year?
200 to 6.
Okay, 200 to 600. So just my thoughts on this. And I think the Councilman Bacon kind of touched on this a little bit, you might wanna think about doing this as a gradual increase. That's a lot to absorb in 1 year, and ultimately what happens is that increase gets passed on the parents of children who are participating in those sports. And sometimes when you're a parent and you've got 2, 3 kids involved in multiple sports, budgets can get pretty tight, etc. So that might be something to think about. My fear is, and I'm not saying it's necessarily valid, it's just how I'm thinking. Is that might actually just shut down, athletic. Activity in community altogether, meaning organized sports would kind of go away because they might look for a cheaper option elsewhere. Not saying that what they pay now I do believe it's lower than most. But maybe just slow walking that where we build that up over time versus hitting them, basically almost tripling their fees. In 1 year, that might be a lot to absorb. Just my thoughts on it, for what that's worth.
Mayor Porco, there was discussion on concerns for that, and, from what I know, any group is actively fundraising to defray their costs. And we saw no reason why that couldn't help them to achieve this gain in cost.
Okay, well, I mean, again, just sharing my thoughts on this, that's a lot to hit people that have had relationships with our borough now, going on, gosh, at least 20-25 years. I can speak for certain, around soccer. Within those two soccer probably had a relationship with our community for well over 20 years. And baseball has, also had a long-standing relationship with that. So just wanted to share my concerns over, that might be a drastic increase in one shot. You might want to slow walk that over the next couple of years.
I appreciate that, but what we don't have any information, how many Forest Hills residents are on these teams and how many are from neighboring communities. While we welcome everyone to come and use our spaces, they're not the ones paying the taxes, our residents are. Ms. Lewis?
I appreciate Mayor Porco's comments. I also appreciate, what you just said, but I also think that what Mayor Porco is saying, as well as some of the other initiatives that are happening in the borough, looking to position the borough of Forest Hills to be a community where young families want to come, plant roots, raise their children. These amenities are a part of it, and I think what Mayor Porco has to say is pretty valid, and it's not a lot of savings on our end, but a potential hardship for our families. Having been mother of 3 sons, who has done that and had to pay the fair share for all their sports activities, he's correct in what he's saying, it matters, so just.
Mr. DeCrosta?
Mr. Abrams, the point of clarification here, this increase is per team or per league?
It's
Per
per
league.
league.
It's the whole league.
Entire league. I
Yeah,
don't think
we-
$100 is gonna kill the league. Right. So that would be the baseball league and the soccer league, an increase of $400 over probably more than 200 kids. $800 total, let's say. Yeah, okay. Just a point of clarification.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, then, back to Mr. Abrams.
So just to give an update, with tennis currently tabled, advisory councils are down 2810, fields with an increased revenue of $800 to $1,000, we'll call it 1,000, and deer culling with a $15,000 savings. We're looking at about $18,810 or 0.05 mils being saved by those moves. And I had the total at 0.077 with the slight difference in the deer culling, but with the tennis as a maximum. If we then move on to other income, council did approve the additional of swim. I'm conservatively estimating that is a net gain of $14,000, just in case there are extra lifeguard or other needs. That adds up to a 0.039 increase in revenue which total would come out, as you can see, to just about 1/10 of a mil of savings, should all of those be implemented in full.
I have some additional comments and questions. Okay, when I look through, and thank you for all these reports, but, when I go back and compare what we're actually getting in and paying out, and this is a small one. So our Arbor Day activities list $2,000, but we don't spend anything because most of that is in kind. Now, I understand, Mr. Lawrence, had you requested a student worker or something? I believe, and you were told there wasn't funding.
Yeah, I did request, we have an intern to do some initial work to clean up, to get us cleaned up with our, what used to be called the personal handbook, which is going back several decades, and it's embarrassing if anyone ever read it. So I had asked if we could have an intern this summer to do some initial work. If a lot of it's some tedious administrative work, which I don't want to see for our manager doing, it's a diversion and challenging, but it would be good for an income. I would encourage us to consider that money, because we really do need to clean up some old stuff here.
Currently, there is $2,600 allocated to a summer intern with taxes, and we have missed the window for the LGA intern, which is partially subsidized, leading to that cost of. We don't have a project yet, so.
Well, if I can clarify, discuss with other members, that is not going to be a good source of an intern for this particular project. I think the only good source of that is going to be someone who's getting a master's degree in HR. It's a little above even an undergrad who's majoring in HR. And I certainly will be happy to reach out to the universities who do have those programs and help internship, but that, in this case, the LGA is probably not a good source.
No, it wasn't recommended the LGA would be doing that, but since we're not going to be applying to the LGA, that $2,600 in wage is now available for other uses. And if I have a better cost, again, at any point, council can work to appropriate more funds if that's in there. So there's also, in theory, about $3,000. It could also be removed by totally removing the intern and the taxes that go with that, or applied to another use.
Okay, are you satisfied then?
Yeah, I'd like to do it, and I'll do what I can to make sure that happens.
Okay, well then I have some, we've been talking about small numbers, so now I'd like to talk about some big numbers. And I actually think that I can make everybody happy.
Go for it.
Okay, you ready for this? I'm making broad statements, but,
One step closer to saying, but.
okay. Now, when I asked, Mr. Abrams, what is, 0.25 of a mil? It's close to 90,000, is that correct?
That's correct.
Something,
Yeah.
I think 80, okay, I'm rounding. Okay, right now it seems like we're getting a little bit of savings here, but the contention, it seems, between the council members is a 0.75 to a 1. Okay, 0.25. Now, when I look at the figure for the surplus, which is in the general fund, that's something like 99, wasn't it? 99,000. Is that correct?
That's without context.
That's fine. And the context I want to use right now is, why don't we carry that over then into the next year? That takes care of the 0.25. So we could vote solidly on 0.75 and we would be fine. Now, but hear me out, because I see some faces getting ready to
I
sunset
didn't think
something.
so if it was me.
Now, there's also, are we getting solar credits? And if so, was this is this for sure, or is this figured in somewhere? Could you please remind me on that?
The solar credits have been applied for. We are waiting for the IRS to issue the payment. We do not know when it will be issued. So it is not considered into any of these figures and has previously just been a note on the top. And I previously presented potential options, and Mr. Bielke had also presented the potential option, I believe, to throw it into reserves and not spend any of it. But that would be a council decision
Right.
when it should come. I have no reason to believe that it isn't.
Okay, and what is the figure there?
That's going to be approximately 260,000.
Okay, so we're dreaming big here. It might be coming. So the last figure I wanted to look at is, now there was a 292,522 figure. And what is that for? We discussed that it might be a little different now,
Yeah.
and I don't mean to put you on the spot.
Oh, 292,000 is what I expect that we will be carrying over at the end of the year into in our unencumbered or unrestricted fund balance. So the money that we are actually cash that we are actually carrying over that is not restricted to a separate, either the rainy day fund or the fire or the sewer, is going to be about 292,000 that would be to carry us through until taxes or dipping into our other reserves.
Okay, so we have a potential here, because I know the reserves are a concern.
Yes.
And I would like to state, while we're hoping to get 7% into our reserves, there is a policy in Forest Hills, I believe, that it would be between 5 and 7%. I can't find the policies anywhere on the website, but maybe they're somewhere, but
It's between 5 and 15, and the 7 was
5 and
There's
15 is the recommended, but the
Right,
policy
7.
that Forest Hills adopted was 5 and 7. At least that's what I heard from the previous chair of finance. So regardless, we have plenty of money here to think about what we want to do for next year if we get into a shortfall. Now, I know there was concerns, but we have this every year. We don't have any funding from January to April, and we have to make payroll. That's one of the first questions we ask. Okay, we take a loan from ourselves. Fine, then as soon as tax revenue comes in, that's standard practice. Now the concerns are, oh, well, what happens if we have an emergency, we'll say. Well, clearly, we're not sure of the solar fund, but this carryover is a huge amount of money. So what are we worrying about? I say we go for 0.75. We have this covered. And why are we bickering about a couple of bucks? Mr. DeCross.
Again, another point of clarification. My understanding is that this has been figured on 1.25, not 1. Is that correct?
No, this has been scaled back and figured on 1.
Oh,
It was
okay,
in my memo, it was a request that we would allow for some comfort and some additional options at 1.25. But I shaved everything back, and just to make everything clear, our expenses over the course of those first 3 months are about 1.4 million. Now, granted, we do have some monies coming in. 292 is not a whole lot, because that would potentially drain all of our quote unquote regular savings, that
Right.
our pocket money, as it were.
Yeah, but we're not thinking of taking this for the loan. You mentioned the SOAR fee or the storage account. There's
Mhm.
plenty of money in there.
But
And we
that
would still
292
be-
gets factored into the money that we have available. I actually did a TAN worksheet acting as if we needed a loan, and that got factored in. We would be back flush in April. The other pieces that are not being taken into account, by keeping it low or lower, we are not placing any money into any reserves, and that will prevent any future maintenance. It will keep us in a cycle of deferred maintenance. It will keep us to paving 2 to 3 blocks total per year, and will not allow, I'm not talking about big capital upgrades. I'm talking about the maintenance that is needed to keep things going outside of the sewer system, which is self-funded.
Okay, then I have this comment. I heard the last time, since we didn't raise the taxes last year to 1.5, that we had this deficit. That's what the term was being called, where we didn't have the additional funding here. Now, I would like to make a point. That would be what I would call a paper deficit. It was a proposed budget that wasn't approved. It was scaled back. You can't have a deficit when you didn't have the money. So based on this, we now have a surplus. So how are you figuring now? How is it now that this scaled back where we had a deficit, how now do we have a surplus? Can anybody answer that?
I would just like to say, though, that when we use the term structural deficit, we're talking over a long period of time, and also factoring in the idea that we have X amount of miles of roads to pave or whatever. So we have a structural deficit because each year we don't have enough money to pave the roads fast enough to keep up with them. I think that's, at least that's what the way I'm always looking at this whenever I say structural deficit, and what we took from what we were talking about before. For example, like, we've known there's a problem on Decatur for 2 years, but it hasn't been taken care of because we don't have enough money in the budget to do that. So I think that's what we're talking about when we say structural deficit. It's happened over a long period of time, so we need to catch up on some of the maintenance stuff. That's my perspective, Matt.
Okay, but remember, the road paving budget now is the best we've ever had, because that's with factual data and we have a rating. October, we were promised a new rating for all the roads and we don't have it. Now, what happened is, in the case of Decatur, on paper, it looked at maybe, I think it was like a 5.8 rating or something like this. Okay, then when we heard from concerned resident, that it was in bad shape, it was reevaluated. But how do we know about the rest of the roads? Okay, we don't. We're still waiting for this. And that was we can't pave every road here. We don't have a budget for that. So we've fixed 1 mil, that's our paving. That's the best we can do. I mean, we're not Fox Chapel, we're not Sewickley. Okay, and structural deficit wasn't used before with that, but I agree with you. Miss Lewis, did you have your hand up?
Even though, to the point about there not being any funding, allocated to any of the reserve funds, it gives the budget the appearance that there's a surplus, when in fact there really isn't. Like, to me, it is not responsible for us to be enacting a budget that is not adequately allocating money to reserve funds to address things that come up. And so if we were putting an adequate amount of money in our reserve funds, we would not have a surplus at all. We would have a deficit. And this is a budget with only a 1 mil increase. If you reduce that millage to 0.75, if there is an emergency, there will not be enough cash to tend to it. In my opinion, respectfully, that's irresponsible, and I don't support it at all.
What's the amount in the reserves now?
0.
I asked Mr. Abrams.
We have 500,000 and change in the rainy day fund, which is at that 6.3% level.
And is that considered the reserves, or is that in addition to the reserves?
If I could finish the sentence, that is money that is
Sorry.
intentionally reserved, so that we maintain bond ratings and other pieces. We will expect it to finish the year with $292,000 in the bank to carry us through, which is the other number that I given you.
Well, I had asked you, Mr. Abrams,
Our budget,
Yeah.
3.5%, not 7,
Okay.
not 5.
I was
3.5.
speaking, thank you. So, when I asked you if we're putting the 7% in for the reserves, you answered yes. So are we or aren't we? And is the reserves, the rainy day fund, between the two, how much money is here to spend?
To spend, well, that's a two-part question. No, it was recalculated based on the budget at 6.3%. So no, we do not have 7% in the full reserves. What is there to spend based on council policy and the rainy day fund is the $292,000. That
And-
is all the cash.
And what was the 500 that you mentioned earlier, the rainy day fund?
Yes,
What is that?
those are restricted reserves that we keep. Essentially, should everything hit the fan, it gives us about 2 to 3 months worth of operating money.
So we have money, we're not at zero.
Yeah, I'm a little confused. You said 0, and I mean, we have 500,000 in the reserves.
We're not putting any additional funds.
Understand, but
That's what I'm saying.
but there's something in the reserves, correct?
Correct, but
Yeah,
it's not adequate based on government
Understood.
standards. That's what
So,
I'm saying.
What I,
We
if-
should be
Just a minute, please.
contributing- what I'm saying is, every year, we should be contributing to those reserves.
yes,
And the surplus that is shown in the budget that we've been shown,
Mhm,
if we reduce the millage increase to 0.75,
mhm,
that eliminates that surplus.
mhm. Understood.
Additionally, and what I'm saying, we don't even really have a surplus because nothing is being allocated to any of these reserve funds, to Mr. Fosbury's point, to an adequate amount of funding to the roads. I can't speak for what was the old practice, but there are a lot of improvements that need to be done and we're not able to catch up. And so passing a budget on a shoestring, hoping that the solar credits will come in high, I don't think that's responsible. I just don't.
So I was.
Wait a minute.
I just want to.
Yeah, finish up, because I'm not ignoring. Thank you.
Yeah, no, this 292, then, it is 3.5%. It's something that we could put towards the reserves this year, and then. You're not in that.
No, it's the money that we will literally have left at the end of the year to get us started at the beginning of the year. If you got paid or you didn't get paid for the last month of the year, and you had to rely on money that you would not spend if you were living paycheck to paycheck, we don't get a full paycheck until the end of March. The 292,000 that we have left over is what we will literally have in the general fund bank account. That covers 3 payrolls.
Well, don't we
That-
take
that's
a
what
loan,
happened.
we take a loan on ourselves.
We do.
We've always done it, so why is it a concern? Just a moment, Mr. Bacon.
Alright. When I did my accounting degree, I literally did not take the governmental accounting elective. So it's all we did that, we didn't have to, I stood on. But I was against us at any point referring to this as a surplus. Because the way I think we need to properly look at this, we are right at the tipping point. And the tipping point between just barely keeping up on your bills and having a little extra is a big difference. It might not look like a huge difference a year from now, but 10 years from now, those two paths diverge a lot. And what I think we need to do this so-called surplus as is just beginning to start to reinforce our financial stability, just barely beginning to start thinking about the sort of long-term capital investment plan that we are massively deferring at this rate.
in 10 years from now, we are either going to have public works trucks that are still the same ones that are rusting out, or we're going to have some sort of reasonably responsible and probably still quite frugal replacement plan for them. And if we are starting at this tipping point and barely catching up, it's a massive difference between a very small amount of money relatively. We're talking about 1/39 or something like that of the millage being different here. It's not a big amount in the raw amount, but the way those two paths converge is very significant. I also think, if we're saying some people are saying 0.75 and one, well, first of all, several of us wanted to be slightly more than the one because it gets us to a much more stable position. I don't think aiming for that low end, which I don't think has 4 votes, is the way it should be approaching a compromise, which last year I had similar thoughts and proposed likewise. So I think we are looking at a very small portion of the budget that a long ways out. 10 years from now, when we're finally done paying off the Borough building and the main bond that is, I believe, about $500,000 itself just in debt service each year. When we arrive there and can take a breath after all this, it's going to be 2 very different situations depending on how we get, whether we're just barely holding on or we're just putting a little bit more to really plan for the future.
I like what you've said, and what I would then say is this: if we're looking down the road 10 years from now, then we should consider drastic changes. Why don't we look at, we have this huge, for instance, Public Works. I love everybody, I love the work they do, but do you see how much we spend? Has anybody considered outsourcing? As soon as, this has been brought up before, and oh, it's too much more money. How do we know? I mean, if you're talking this drastically for the future of Forest Hills, there's no way we're gonna be able to absorb all this in 10 years. We can't wait for 10 years. So then people should be coming up with larger proposed cuts that could help us. And they don't mean cuts, it's just a change. So that's my final thing. I know some people said they're confused. Do you want to continue? What's everybody thinking now?
I continue to be confused on this 292. I
If-
don't understand.
If council would indulge me for a couple of minutes, I'm going to try and use a slightly inelegant analogy that's not an exact match, but hopefully it gets the point across. I'm going to use our individual lives and homes. I believe everyone here is a homeowner. We all have vehicles. First off, the rainy day fund, think of that like your retirement. It's money that you set aside that, if you ever need to take a loan against your 401, you can, but you really try not to. You want that to sit there and be safe money for your future, for your kids, whatever else. The budget is, our revenues are our revenues. It's the same as our paycheck. By talking about a deferred maintenance or putting in cuts, we're talking about not having money to put aside when you need to, you're going to need to replace the windows in your house. You know that your car's on its last legs. You know that maybe you've got a year or two. Do you put some money away so that you can make an affordable payment on your car, or that you can afford to put in those windows? Or if you've got siding, I have cedar siding on part of my house. I can't replace just one cedar plank every year. You need to plan ahead. And what we can't do is take out a second mortgage or a loan because we've already got 2 giant ones. So we need to make sure that we have enough money that when it comes time to replace the siding on the house, to do the brakes and the tires, that we have that money put away, because we can't put it on a credit card. We can't take out a loan to do it. So when I talk about this and do we have money to do things, we're not even looking at building new structures. We're talking about the ability to maintain the roads. If we pave 2 to 3 blocks and do not agree, and council doesn't agree to put more money aside as was proposed, in the LSSE plan from 2023, then we will end up at the point where you're gonna have more and more roads that are truly falling apart, that are in emergency condition. And this will happen over the course of the next 3 to 5 to 10 years. So if we can start to eat into that, as Mr. Bacon said, right now, there is no funding to replace any of the public works vehicles right now. There's money to replace the broken brush hog, but
You're getting into the weeds here. Can you
well, but
just-
that's where council is asking
No,
what the
I'm
results are.
serious about this 292.
Mhm.
You said you have to use it for the beginning of the year. It's not making any sense to me. Can't we take that surplus or whatever we wanna call it and put it into the reserve fund?
We could, if you end up, I'm assuming that most of you do not live.
Can I just one clarifying thing that might help us all understand?
Please.
Is we're fundamentally talking about cash flow problems at this point. Not getting from the end of the year until we get the tax paid. That, I think that context just might help what we're trying to.
So that's what I'm.
Just.
Yeah, I think, the answer, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Educator kind of thing here.
Please.
So from running a school, because nobody works in the school in May, June, July, nobody pays the bills. So they start paying them again in August because they're getting tax revenue and stuff at that point in time. We kind of have to do the same thing because the tax revenue that's coming to us from the tax collector doesn't come every 2 weeks. So we need to hold back enough money. So in January, February, March, we have enough money to pay the non-negotiable bills, like paying the people, that there's enough cash, because there's not enough tax money coming in at that point in time.
Is
Is
that
that-
the case?
That's correct.
Is that the case?
Yes.
Okay, then how much do we have in all of our bank accounts that can be used if we're taking a loan to pay the staff and to keep moving for form? How much do we have that's free in all of our bank accounts? Are you telling me there's only $500,000?
No, if you look at all of our bank accounts,
Okay.
including all of our restricted accounts, we have somewhere today of around $2 million.
But this is, I'm saying, money we can use, and, you use the word restrictive, and I start getting scared. So these are, I want to know the amount that we could borrow, so we keep the borough afloat from January to April, like we've done forever. How much do we have in our bank accounts to do that?
I'm going to ask Mr. Corbel a question that he may be able to answer. If you're doing an interfund loan within yourself, are there any limits to how much you can borrow from yourself?
Not to the amount that we're, nothing that would exceed, I don't believe, what we're talking about here. I mean, we've been doing it in the borough. We used to take a tax anticipation note, but Frank, I remember doing those, but we haven't done those in, man,
No.
a decade or more. We've not needed, yeah, because we've just taken, it's just shifting the money until the tax revenue comes in, shift it back. So, yeah, that's totally fine.
Yes, and we can do that.
That's what.
I do try and keep some of the non-general fund monies clean, but matter of fact, we still owe the sewer fund money. So to borrow more, even though it would be paid back in the same year, yeah, it can be done. Trying not to do that, and I'm definitely not looking at taking out a TAN though. So we will definitely be borrowing against ourselves. There is no question on that.
Okay, and how much is available in all of our bank accounts then to do that?
As I said, right now it's about 200, or not 200. Right now it's about $2
I
million.
wish it was.
No, I could have said 200,000, but no, right now, all of our bank accounts, we have approximately $2 million.
Did you have your hand out, Mr. Vieta?
Yes, I just had a couple of, maybe this will try to help me out too here. So we're carrying over the 292 to get us, for funding for the next fiscal year. Okay. We currently have, in addition, we have roughly $93,000 in surplus.
No, that's included in the
That's
292.
Okay, so we got 200,000 plus the 90.
Right. And that's where I've been trying to state and have stated previously, while we technically have a surplus this year because we budgeted a fiscal deficit by taking money out of reserves.
I think he was done talking.
Okay, but
But,
yeah,
okay. So we're combining that, but when we're talking about it, the thing that starts to get confusing is that we keep taking money in and out, and, you know, it looks like we're getting three different piles of money here, but, so we got the 293,000 for the, next fiscal year to begin our, you know, our, you know, our expenses, et cetera. So then we're gonna be getting about $270,000 from the solar credits. Okay, that's what we're expecting.
Mhm.
So if we use a portion of that to cover the, let's say we want to drop a quarter of the mill. That would be around 93,000 from that 270. The balance of that 270 less the amount of 93,000 would cover, you could put that in any other fund that you wanted to. You could put it in a reserve, you can put it in whatever other funding we see fit to do. Is that correct?
that is correct. And when it comes back to me, I do have one other comment about structural deficit, but I will wait
So-
till you're.
So is that the best possible scenario? No, I would, you know, we had a higher tax base. You know, we wouldn't be talking like this, but we do have an opportunity to do that and then take a look at what our funding is next year. And next year, we'll be going in budget talks again, and if we have to raise the millage again, we can raise the millage again. We did the same thing, we almost had the same conversation last year, where we were, there was a lot of doom and gloom, and that we were wringing our hands, and that we don't get, raise it by a mill, that we were gonna be in trouble, but we never have to do it again this year. And here we are this year, I mentioned this before, and we're talking about raising the taxes again. Had we done it last year, we'd be still in the same situation. So I don't know if this is artificially, you know, inflated or artificially, we're getting an artificial number, seems to me, and that's what I'm saying, and a lot of these figures keep changing every time we get another one of these. It's kind of a different look and a different feel. This particular chart here was much better. It at least shows expenses. I would like to see like a sum total of the revenues as well, but this is a lot better, way easier to look at than leafing through all these pages. Okay.
Mr. Abrams, you wanted to finish one.
The one other piece I just want to remind people as we talk about the structural deficit, a structural deficit is by definition where your recurring revenues do not meet your recurring expenses. So that takes out things like the 260 to 270,000 from the solar credits that will be a one-time. So when we can make the budget balance on year to year and whether it be grants or other hopeful gifts, but a structural deficit by definition is when your recurring expenses are not covered by your recurring revenues. So that's why we do have a structural deficit, and we've been slowly taking out of our reserves, taking out of our savings account. And when we had a surplus this year, what that quote unquote surplus just means we didn't have to take as much out of savings. It doesn't mean that we actually quote unquote made money, because a surplus against budget is different than cash flow and bank balance. Those are three very separate items that do interplay very tightly, but they are absolutely separate items. So you can have a balanced budget. That just means that your pluses and your minuses are zero. Doesn't care where your money's coming from. If we don't have the money in reserves to transfer out, then we can't balance the budget. So,
Which again is important, that we look as we started this conversation, we look at closing the tennis courts, that's saving money. We're looking at, there are other items here that we've looked at, and we didn't even go into in detail some of the other things we might be able to take, and I know it looks like, oh, it's 2,000 here, 2,000 there, but totals up.
I have two questions. Okay, so we have enough money in our bank accounts to take a loan against ourselves for the first 4 months of the year. Mr. Abrams, yes or no?
yes,
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Now, if we found, I get the feeling that there's no budget here. If we found $90,000 in cuts, would you still agree with in having it to be one? It seems like I'm not gonna listen to anything, cuts are small. Mr. Bacon,
The current budget as it is still, in my opinion, not planning for the future. And we will have to come and revisit it, either to deal with roads, public works vehicles, or other long-term capital investments, because we're still not actually properly planning for this in the future. So even if it's one or the equivalent of one with an additional 0.25, I think we'll probably get closer there, then we would at least have a trajectory that's having a little bit more wiggle room for the future. But I think we're still gonna find ourselves surprised, and we're having to make future increases to deal with the capital planning problems if we don't at least start off in that direction a little bit better this year.
okay? Anybody else? Ms. Lewis?
I like the analogy of a 401k. It's money that you have, it's yours. But if you take out of it, you don't have it for later. And I feel that a lot of the discussions are about utilizing funds, and again, I am not a government finance expert, but I've been around this space a lot. I've heard things about bond ratings, and all of those decisions affect those things. And I personally think that passing the budget with less than 1 millage increase is irresponsible. Because we are talking about, like, when you start gutting services, when you start reducing amenities, you also change what you give to your residents, which also changes the attractiveness of your community for new residents. And personally, I want to be in a community where we're doing both, where we're serving residents who are here and have been here for a lifetime, but where we are also welcoming new families who want to come here because we have a pool and playgrounds and ball fields and all of that. And they'll buy a house and they'll live here and they'll stay. And they'll bring their earned income here as well. And by whittling away at these things and utilizing accounts that should not be used for operating capital, I don't agree. So that's just my position, and I think we should be considering a higher increase than we are, but that's just my position and why.
Okay, so we're beating a dead horse, but I want to know when the survey is going out. Because we have a lot of assumptions going on, because we talked to a few residents. I want to hear everybody having the chance to speak. So, Mr. Lawrence, any time frame?
I have one clarifying question. Isn't the survey just about the tennis courts, which is?
No.
it's
No.
about Parks and Rec as
Is
it,
it over-
so it is the pool, it's the courts.
I'm not-
Yeah.
Thank you.
Actually, it's a very important issue. Now. we're not dealing with a toggle switch here. One of the things that's come up, been clear in these discussions, is we have a lot of things we need to think about for long-term planning. And I'm sick of damn tennis courts, but it's a good analogy there. And I'm very sorry I brought it up. But it brings up a question about many things that we need to think in the long term, and we cannot do this in the month of November and October at the end of the budget season. These are things that have to be discussed and planned for over the next several years. Why don't we think about taxation in the same way? This is not a do or die thing.
That's right.
If we don't, I'd love to go 2 minutes, what the hell, I might have to ask. But, just because we only raise it 0.75, 0.85, doesn't mean we can't do the same thing next year and the year after. But you do have to, as much as we wanna say we wanna pay attention to the amenities we give our residents, we have to think about the taxes we take out of our residents' pockets. Last year, one of the reasons we went to the 0.75 is we felt we just couldn't slam them anymore, and I feel the same way this year. I would say, why don't you look at taxation the way you're looking at the tennis courts? Over the long haul, and we keep increasing it at a steady rate, it doesn't slam people badly. Yes, 1.5 would be wonderful, but somebody's got to break that check. So let's not look at it as a toggle switch tonight. Think about over the long term, how would you do that?
Mr. Abrams, do you think you could do with a 5-year projection based on what Mr. Lawrence said at say 0.75 and 0.1 for the others to see how we would do? This is all hypothetical, but since we're at a standpoint,
I'm
would
not
that be
comfortable with
okay?
the 5-year, but I can certainly work it into the 3-year, which is 26, 27, 28, which.
Whatever
all
you
council
think is-
has, because even then it's a stretch. We can look at that. What we end up missing though is that opportunity cost, and.
Can you just do
Yeah.
it?
I can.
Okay, thank you. 3 years. Mr. Bacon.
I just want to say something positive.
Somebody.
Everybody's interaction tonight, and my opinion, how we're approaching this. Is that I think we're all coming to terms, and this is our, maybe here's my little bit of editorial. on it. I think we're all coming to terms with the fact that property value, assessed value. Is a really awkward mechanism that has a lot of things that get stuck sometimes with everything else in our economy. And our needs and stuff is moving in a big way. And that assessment change, everything else, like it doesn't match up. And I think it's what I've seen happen between last year and this time is that we are all being more flexible about approaching that. And balancing our residents' needs. Than just trying to hold super firm on the number that it's just in the face of inflation and everything. Changing, what's actually, so I think everyone is a lot more flexible and a lot more objective in how we're approaching this. And I just want to say, I really appreciate that because I've been seeing some of these other places that have been so stuck to holding the village firm while everything else changes around. I think it's a really nice viewpoint that I'll seem to be embracing this. I feel we're being more flexible, so. Thank you.
Okay, well then, if there's no other comments, Mayor Porco?
More question, and this is
Mhm.
for, Seth, sorry. In our budgeting process, do we still maintain capital planning budget?
No, we do not.
So that's. I would just encourage those on council to think through, that they have to factor that in to their decision making process as they're contemplating where that village rate needs to fall. Because and I'm not trying to lecture, I'm just trying to share some experience with you, right? But capital improvements plan takes into account things like, as Seth mentioned, right? Long-term planning for this building, equipment that needs to be purchased, eventual phase out and repurchase of equipment such as our tractors that we use to maintain the lawns in the field and on Boulevard. DPW trucks that we rely on for street cleaning, especially in the wintertime. You know, our residents are kind of accustomed to a level of service. We also have our rotation for public safety. All of those things kind of factor in. Eventually, at some point, the fire department will come to us and ask us for a significant investment in one of their trucks. Those are not cheap items. Those items need to be accounted for as part of the planning process. And so, and on top of that, this also assumes that everything kind of goes as it should, which. Sorry,
I may not make it home as planned.
Yeah, sorry to play the old man on the days, part, but in 26 years, I don't think we've never had that. I don't think we've gotten through one year where, at least one of our officers hasn't gone out in some sort of, injury related
Ooh.
to work, right? Yeah, let's,
Everybody.
every night I pray for the safety of our officers, but yeah, at the end of the day, they have a pretty crazy job and things happen and people get hurt, right? Not everybody just puts their hand behind their back when you tell them to, right? So someone's gonna fight and then that, sometimes things like that happen. So those are all factors that have to come into play. The gap, because as I was reviewing the budget, the document, et cetera. That's the one thing that kind of stood out to me, is that there's no more capital improvements plan, which we used to have, maintain a separate budget just for that, and all of that factored in. Taking that out of the equation doesn't mean those expenses aren't coming. And then I'll share with you one last thing. Two things I never thought I'd ever see in my lifetime here. One of which was cars floating down Kenmore Avenue, we got a pretty massive hurricane, I guess. We'll call it a storm, right? It was a pretty massive flood. That had we not had our rainy day fund available. We were on our own to mitigate all of those issues, right? The purchasing of dumpsters and placing them around the boulevard, placing them around the community. So that people impacted by those storms had a place to go throw their stuff out. That all came out of, FEMA came around and never even got out of the cars. They said that they came and surveyed the damage. They never exited their vehicles. Most of the damage that occurred in the residents' homes, in the basements, were all flooding there. We didn't get it done,
I
right?
remember.
Yeah, we took care of that, and it all came out of our surplus, right? To accommodate for that. And never thought I'd see a global pandemic in our lifetime, and it occurred right here in Portsmouth. And if I'm not mistaken, while we certainly received, government funding to help with COVID related expenses, at first, we were on our own. To kind of navigate that until those funding dollars were kind of released, right, and it took some time to get. So those are all things I think you have to kind of. There's a balance, and I appreciate what you're saying. You can't juice our constituents to death, but by the same token, you've got to kind of find that balance. But planning for things like public works purge, capital expenditures, the DPW, capital expenditures for the fire department and public safety vehicles, et cetera, plus all the other stuff, that all has to factor into the decision. That's the box now, thank you.
Thank you. We've been waiting for this long-term strategic plan all year, and we haven't received it. So let's make that a priority for next year. And unless there's any other questions or comments, are there? I should have known, Mr. Bacon.
Thinking about several things people said about wanting to plan starting early next year. I think we should challenge ourselves to come up with the proper, fully fleshed out capital planning starting next year, so that when we're at this point next year, that is something we can, with data, really include in this conversation.
Anyone else? Okay, then I move to adjourn the meeting by acclamation. Are there any objections? Meeting is adjourned. Oh, yeah, you stuck with it.
Yep.
For the executive session, we'll call you in speech.
Thanks.